The Team Never Quit podcast is sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. Partner up with Navy Federal to pay down credit card debt. You can learn more at NavyFederal.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Team Never Quit podcast. Just a heads up, we are getting some strong weather right now, so you may hear a little bit of rain coming in and out. Shouldn't be too bad, but I'm sure
that's called mood music.
Yeah, it's got some mood music, but I'm sure the massive garden operation my mom's got working out here, it's going to be pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
Don't forget to stay up to date with everything that we have going on. You can check out our social medias at team_neverquit. With that being said, let's kick it off to the Patreon question of the day, which is, what is something weird that you would recommend to somebody at least trying once?
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good question.
Psychedelic medicine. That's something weird that I would never in my life ever recommend anybody to do on a casual thing, but I feel like if everybody in the world did it once under a clinical care, doing it the right way, it would change the world and everybody would be a lot happier.
I think that's a good one.
Just one time.
Have you done that?
I have. Which I have literally never done any other drug. I don't drink alcohol. I'm the last person in the world that would do it. And I honestly feel like it would change the world. If people did it clinically, not for fun, not as a party thing, but through the right channels, with the right intention, it would change the world for sure. The breaking down of ego. That's mine.
Mm-hmm. God, it's a deep question, man. You go. I like to let my wife go first.
Oh gosh. A weird thing I would recommend that people try once. I mean,
could be weird or unique. Just anything different.
I mean, people think that I'm weird or crazy for that matter because I like to dive with sharks. You know, I recommend that everybody try that once, especially if you know, I think that the fear is, it's a thing, like people kind of get this in their head that, you know, like sharks are bad and they're dangerous and they're scary and they're going to eat you and, you know, whatever. But it's something that I enjoy doing. I've gotten Jeremy to do it a couple different times with me when we were traveling, but I've been on like 25.
She got you to do that. Imagine that. She got. Hold on. Wait.
In the water with sharks before.
Yeah, but they don't
bro,
like sharks.
you must be a hell of a woman. Because a team guy will do damn near anything to get a girl's attention. We just will.
Swim with sharks. Yeah.
But to put dive gear on, knowingly putting dive gear, the shark thing, we'll get into that. But that was
she likes to pet him though. Like,
see, man, I don't, dude, bro.
I mean, I
have a hell of a respect for apex predators, right?
When we first met, I know my point.
She'd pet a grizzly bear too, though. I think if she could.
Well, it's funny because like I'm terrified of like snow skiing, right? Like Jeremy grew up in Montana. Like he started skiing as a kid. Like I didn't start snow skiing until I was like 25, 26 years old, and so for me, like it's terrifying. Like I feel like I don't have control, you know, but like I'm totally comfortable like swimming, you know, open water diving with sharks, bull sharks, tiger sharks, lemon sharks, like all the aggressive breeds. I've never swum with a great white, but I know people who have. And like, that's not scary to me. Like, I'm just totally.
Big Shark Week fan? You a big Shark Week fan?
Yeah.
Me too. I know. I dork out over that. I mean, like I started looking, I was thinking about yesterday. I was like, Shark Week's coming up, man. I can feel it.
Oh, I've been wanting for the past 2 years. Of course, we've got
really?
Kids, yeah. Like 2 and 4 years old. We've got, you know, our kids are young, and so we haven't really like gotten to do a lot of the things that we would want to do. But every summer I want to do like a shark after dark party, like in the lake where we live, and you know, have like the Jaws playing on the big screen.
Oh, that's terrifying, man. That ruined me. That scarred me for life, that freaking movie, man. And then we became SEALs, right?
That's his worst nightmare.
My mother made me watch that over and over again. You don't need to meet my mother. Y'all got too much in common.
Yeah. That's a good one because that's definitely
that's what changed everybody's perception. That everybody's been terrified of her.
It damn sure did. Think about that. How impactful a movie can be. It changed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was scared to get in a lake, in the swimming pool. I could hear that music playing. And every time we got in the water,
Yeah.
no matter whatever ocean we were in, and they put us in there with the damn whites anyway.
Remember the worst part is we go out of San Clemente Island.
Oh.
You're throwing concussion grenades off, so all the fish are dead and
And then
everything's dead. And the
seals
sharks
are there.
Seals come in, the sharks come in,
Man.
and they're like, okay, now do an open water swim.
Open water swim.
And
Through the
then-
kelp bed and the kelp.
Did they ever the instructors are out there on their kayaks.
Of course
Did
they
they ever
did.
call you guys out of the water?
Oh.
Right, because they're like, okay, great whites, start swimming to shore, and you're like, what?
Oh my god.
That's the thing, man. Let me tell you something. If there was a dead seal sitting on the side of the bank, because you're gonna have to watch shark attack videos all day, and make us do that up into the middle of the night, and then they're like, "We're gonna go get in,"
Yep.
and it's it's 3 rips in there.
Is that during buds?
Oh yeah.
They're just trying to
On
scare
the
you and
third-
make you
It
quit.
works.
Yeah.
I'm freaking scared to piss. I was, man.
He was.
I
scared
swam
of dogs
so
as a kid.
fast. I
That
swam
was
so fast
like
on
a-
that one. I remember because those kelp beds are as big as this table. One leaf out there. They're huge. I mean, you peel around. That's how those.
I could just picture you being scared out there about as big of a
I was. I can openly admit that now.
Well, to that point though, I just think anything extreme to like get you out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Life.
I get that. I
I
do
would-
not like being out of my comfort zone.
You've probably done the isolation tanks chambers, right?
Yeah.
I know they kind of started pushing those for team guys as like a PTS type treatment kind of deal. And so somebody has said some damn net guys were doing it and checking it out. So the first time I did, I went out to Virginia Beach and I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. And I'll tell you, like, I'd recommend it. It's something kind of like different and weird, but like, I'd recommend it. Just don't recommend doing what I did the first time because they show you like a video and they say, okay, like here's.
Should you not even bring it up then because people will try it?
I'll look dumb, but I'm okay. Like,
Oh, yeah,
and
fine.
I think
If
if
you're a
somebody
team
else,
guy, it's not a thing,
Yeah.
man. You're just trying it out. That's what we do.
Yeah. So I mean, they have the whole like 20-minute video. They're like, watch this video before you go do it. It's like, you got the whatever. It's like 11 inches of water. It's not that deep, but it's like enough salt in there that you float and it's
Oh, it's
dark.
the float tank.
The float tank, right?
Yes,
But it's like
uh-huh.
there's no sound and the
Yes.
water temperature is the same temperature as your body, so you're like you're floating in outer space, right? And so
Mhm.
like that way you go in there for an hour and you let your mind totally, go into a different state and whatever. So you do all that. So like they give me this whole watch the video, do this thing. I'm zoning out. I can't pay attention. So like I go in there and I'm like, I got it. How hard can you just go lay in the tank, like super easy. So I go in there and I'm laying in it and it starts out, I can't remember if they start out with like a little bit of music and then all of a sudden it goes quiet and then it's dark and like I'm not in there for 5 minutes and I'm like, I wonder what it'd feel like if I just rolled over.
Oh my gosh.
Just like I'm laying there on my back, like, okay, got it. Like, what if I rolled over and just did it on my stomach?
Hey.
What I forgot was like the salt content there is like higher than like being in the Dead Sea,
yeah.
right? So I roll over and I like splash my face, get that salt in my nose and eyes and mouth and ears, and I'm just like, the rest of the hour was shot because I was just like, oh man,
Your team guy toughed it out the whole
I'm
time.
like, where's the light at? I gotta find it.
my
I know they
God.
said they
Where's
put a
the
towel
red
in here
button?
somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grab the towel so I can like
Let
get
me
it off my
out of
face.
the egg.
But I'm like, I'm sure in that 20-minute video they said like, whatever you do, like don't
Yeah,
roll over.
that was the entire video.
Oh my
Oh, man.
gosh.
So I had to do it again another time just to do it.
That's
right.
hilarious. Morgan
They're
was
worth
really
trying.
into the
Yeah.
float tanks.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's cool. I actually didn't do that, but you did, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's neat. Yeah. There's some weird stuff out there, and in all of them, it's just getting out of your comfort zone. What was yours?
I didn't say one yet.
Oh.
Go ahead, Hunter. What's yours?
I think something that really changed my whole life is going to do a solo backpacking trip around Asia, Europe. Just something just by yourself, get out there for a few weeks, and that'll change your whole process and how you view life itself. So I think that's mine.
Yeah. Hunter's done a lot of solo travels all over Thailand and Europe and different places.
You didn't worry a bit, did you?
So when he went to Thailand, this is a funny story. I texted every team guy I know that does private security internationally. And I was like, hey, what are things that Hunter needs to worry about? And this was his senior year or in his senior year of college. So I'm like, what does he need to worry about? What are things he needs to look, like signs to look for or things not to do or whatever. And one of our friends ended up getting us in touch with a team guy that lived in Thailand. And he was like, when he gets to this place, have him just call this guy and they can just meet up and whatever. And I'm thinking, this guy that lives in Thailand is not going to want to meet up with a college kid. He did. And he took Hunter everywhere and just treated him so well and showed him all the things, stuff he probably won't tell me, but they had a ball and I was so impressed with that. And it just shows like the brotherhood, the network, the wide cast of the brotherhood is just so neat to have because we didn't know this guy and he just took Hunter under his wing, like across the world.
It was awesome. He knew all the club owners, like everywhere. He just gave us the VIP experiences. It was amazing.
But from a safety standpoint, I felt better that Hunter had someone there that.
Oh, he thought he was having a good time, but in reality, there was an entire SEAL team around him, and pushing him in every direction. And moved something out of the way. Can't see this. Then there was a satellite that transpired. She moved.
Spelling that dot.
I mean, you can't believe it.
But it did make me feel a lot more comfortable.
I think some people got some pull, man. I don't even. It's unbelievable.
To that point, though, Hunter, I mean, I think that's really great because like we live in such this like social, culture that like nobody wants to do anything without like friends and people and like they're don't want to go out like on their own and take a trip. Like those have been some of my best trips, like just going off on my own and exploring and doing something. And
yeah, you really don't know what you're capable of, and just get yourself pushed outside of that comfort zone, and it'll teach you a lot about yourself.
Well, I taught him one thing. What did I teach you about road trips?
Which one?
Never pass them up.
Never pass them up,
very true.
Never pass them up. I mean, all those were good. Like
Hunter
face
gets
your
put on
invited
this,
to
like
something.
put on
your
this
fears
earth to
and getting
explore
out,
it. Like experience it and explore it. And
Yeah.
You know what blew my mind is like my first deployment. I went to Spain and I'm sitting over there in this little town, and you're talking to somebody who's lived there their whole life and never left that little town. And it's like, this is a really cool town to come and check out. But like, I wouldn't want to stay in this town my entire life.
It's not that cool.
And don't you realize there's a whole world out here? Like,
Yeah.
it's wild. What some people never really venture out of.
50-something% of all. I read a statistic, man, and I've asked around. Like that there's a major majority of humans that don't leave the town they grew up in.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Think about that.
I can't.
And remember, we would go over into some of these countries. It's like traveling back in time. I mean, not only do you feel it, the time shift, you feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've crossed over into a different realm.
It's like going back 50 years.
Going back.
Right. Yeah.
Your body actually feels it. And then when you step off the plane, you see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like literally when you leave America and you travel back in time, or you go forward in time, right?
Turns
So
out
actually,
time machine, yeah.
to go back in time, you're actually going forward on the clock. Took me,
Lee Fon's a time machine.
How about, that's what it is. Get in the time machine, you can feel it, and then you step off. And some of those countries, they've never seen anything like us.
Yeah.
I was talking to the boys the other day. I was like, hey, you kind of a sci-fi fan, right? We all are, like those comics where you talk about those things that fall out of the sky and they're bulletproof and they got glowing green eyes. I mean,
That's
what the
what
hell
we
you
are.
think we are, man? Freaking kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
And I started, when you think about it like that, it's like we were the adventurers, but the guys who came before us, it's like way before us, when they didn't know what was on the other side, like, hey, think about that.
Yeah, think of like World War II, and there's not, a wide range of like information on what the other side of the world is like.
Sure.
That's crazy.
Nor the opportunity to travel like we have
Right.
today. I mean, now it's like, we got married in Croatia, and then we went to Venice kind of right after that. And we were sitting in Venice like,
How great is that place?
I loved it, but it was kind of like, we're sitting there and there's like the tourist boat or the tourist bus or whatever shows up, and it's like a bunch of fat, lazy looking Americans. You're like, what do you guys even do for a job that you can even afford to come here?
Yeah.
First of all, like, I mean, it's just like, I felt like we could have, I don't know, like, it was like, everybody has the ability to travel now, right?
Yes.
Like everybody, like they just it's so cheap and so easy,
Yeah.
but a lot of
And
people
quick.
still don't.
We
know?
like go
go-
into places that are not touristy. Like this last year, we went to Italy, and but we went off the beaten path. We went to a town that no one spoke English. They were wondering what the heck we were doing there. I had to use Google Translate, and they just did not understand why Americans were there. And I'm like, I just looked on the map.
How'd you even find this place? Yeah, right.
I'm like, I
What are you
just
doing
looked
way out
on the
here?
map, and your
Yeah.
lake looked pretty.
Oh, yeah. Pinterest. That's how we found
People
it.
go to the city because they think it's.
That's how it was in some parts of Croatia that we went to. But then we also, from there, we rented a car once we got off the island that we were staying at in Croatia. We rented a car actually and drove all around the coast down to southern Italy, where we then went to Venice.
How
And that was neat because then
fun.
we hit a lot of those small towns. And
That's
then,
really neat.
yeah,
I love
stopped
that.
off at a lot of cool places.
So let's back it up. Where were you born?
Montana, Northwest Montana,
What town?
Kalispell.
What is it? There was something in the
That's
water up there,
Flathead
like
Lake or something, right?
with
Yeah.
whitefish.
We live on Flathead Lake now, yeah.
and that lake that y'all come out of.
Yeah.
That produced Team Guys.
Yeah, I mean,
There's like a bunch of
growing up, it was Zinke, Ryan Zinke. Grew up in Whitefish, and Kalispell was like 15 miles south there, and I grew up basically in Kalispell. And then
Ulrich.
since then, there was a couple. Ulrich grew up
we
there.
went through together.
He came in just a little bit after me, and then
Yeah.
and
They're
then
Beeman,
Chip moved there because and now it's like
but he's got like
all
9 kids,
moving.
and they're all freaking
they're all team
one of.
guys.
How about that?
Yeah, he's got like 3 boys, all Navy SEAls.
He needs to open
my
up a
gosh.
farm.
Amazing.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
How about that guy?
That's wild. Yeah, Chip's good people, and then and now there's a whole Army Special Forces contingent too, and they're better at recruiting than the SEALs are up there. I mean, there's more of them to recruit, I guess, but like they're moving in droves, so it's kind of cool. Like we basically have that.
It's real cool.
that,
Our little
that
town.
group of guys.
Don't
that-
y'all have?
Mm.
Is Andy Stump up there?
Andy is, yeah. hmm
Because I saw a Black Rifle. I don't know him personally, but I follow his Instagram, and I saw that
Yeah.
he opened a Black Rifle up
He
there.
did in Kalispell. I've been in there one time. It's really cool. It's
It
nice.
looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really
So now the town's competition is going to be who can open up the coolest coffee shops, and that's how we'll get at each other now. Like across the street, right? Hey, look at that
like
thing.
Lowe's and
Over
Home
there,
Depot,
man.
like yeah,
Good for them.
yeah.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Okay,
We'll
so
hide these Starbucks.
Right.
I don't really like
No
Starbucks
kidding.
that much, but it's convenient this morning.
right. So we're taking it back to your childhood. Did you grow up with brothers and sisters, or parents in the military, anything like that?
Parents in the military. My grandfather. So I was. It's kind of a his, hers, and ours, I guess. Right. Like so, I have a half brother, younger brother, and an older step brother and stepsister. Right. And so my mom got remarried to my dad now when I was probably like 2.5, 3 years old, and that man actually adopted me also, so he had full legal rights. So I kind of felt like he was my dad till you're a teenager and you're like, you're not my real dad just because you're.
Did you go through that?
I did, but it was weird because there's no reason to.
What causes that?
I don't know.
Just out of curiosity, you see it on
Is it-
TV. I'm just curious now that we're
Yeah.
here.
I don't know if it's like an insecurity or something. Like what I did have
Because it sounds
an
like a
issue
go-to
with.
phrase.
What's that?
It's a go-to phrase.
It's like it's totally that's exactly what it is. And I don't know, like for me, I was just telling somebody yesterday how like when I was a little kid, I had some insecurities, and maybe they were driven from some of that, or maybe they're driven from who knows. But I was like the class clown. I was always in trouble, and the rest of my siblings weren't. Like I got spanked more than all the rest of my siblings combined. I was a stubborn, hard, child, fun, but like I just pushed all the limits, and maybe it was part of my nature, but maybe it was like there was definitely some insecurities there. I mean, I was in the principal's office like all the time. There's all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. When I got older, I was actually a pretty good kid. I mean, for the most part. But you just still have this like little tiny bit of rebellion. And I kind of laughed a minute ago because when you're talking about, some of these people never leave the area that they're from. Like I could not wait to get out.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I love.
Some people
my
are made
dad,
to leave.
but I was like ready to be
Oh, yeah.
out on my own and do my own thing. And I wanted to go far, far away and wherever that was to do my own thing. And, experienced life and all that. So,
But you had amazing parents. Like
my parents are amazing. Yes, for sure. Yes. And sometimes you don't fully comprehend that until you become a parent.
Oh yeah,
especially,
that's when that happens.
and then you just have like that much more respect for even the things that maybe you didn't agree with when you were younger. Anyways, yeah.
If someone stepped in to be a parent on you and you kind of throwing that back and you don't see it, that means it's coming later.
Right.
That's when that shows up.
Yeah.
That's irony. That's life right there, man. That's how it works.
My mom used to say this and get a kick out of it now, but she was like, when I was misbehaving or whatever, she'd be like, I hope you have a son and I hope he's just like you.
She put that on you?
Yeah.
She already put that on you?
She put it on me. So like our son is 4 and apparently, I'm starting to
just wait.
Just like me, And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I got it.
So my father put a curse on me too as a kid, and it came true when I had kids. Like that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just wait till the little one's old enough to start scrapping around, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's how they get you back.
Or stealing your tools. Marcus swears that his
I didn't
dad...
steal my father's hammer, okay? I borrowed it, and I didn't
Yeah.
put it back because he called me away in the middle of using it, and I went, long story short.
Marcus swears that his dad put a curse on him.
put that-
when he was a
He
child
did. He
for
said it in my
not
face.
returning his hammer.
It's a real
And
thing.
now
I was standing there. He was
all
like a
his
verbal.
tools go missing
All my
the
tools go
time.
missing all the time,
He
dude.
curses his dad.
So I'm real careful about what curses I put down on my kids. So far, I've kept them all to myself.
I hear that.
Let them slip up, though.
So when you were in high school, is that when you decided to become a SEAL or just go into the military? Or
Did your parents, how'd that work anyways?
I was in that, this is kind of funny. I was in that era I started in 214 and finished in 215, right? So graduated high school in 1996 and had the whole summer. But I was looking at between my junior and senior year, military recruiters were calling me, and I had no real interest in being in the military. What I was going to say a minute ago is my grandfather on my dad's side that adopted me, Jerry, his dad had been in World War II, but only for 3 years because it was he was in the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
And so he got shot down over, I believe it was Yugoslavia, at the last 6 months of the war. So he's a POW for the last 6 months of the war. And so he had some stories, but he never talked about it, it was, and the only person he really talked about it with was me after I was in the Navy and already went to SEER school.
Yeah.
And he was kind of telling me some stories, and he was like, so they used to have these GI wool sweaters and they're really nice. So he basically was getting interrogated, and he knew it wasn't really serious until they made you take off your sweater because they would keep your sweater and they liked it. So they wouldn't. That's what he said. He was like, they're not gonna shoot a hole in this sweater or whatever. That was kind of his little knowing when it was serious, But anyways, yeah. So that was on that side, and then my grandfather on my mom's side actually I think served for 2 years and didn't really have to go anywhere or do anything, but both that was around World War II. And then the rest of the family, there was nothing. And so when I was in my senior year, I played soccer, and here we are in Texas. I'm still not sure they know what soccer is here in Texas.
we definitely don't.
We don't.
but in Montana, I was at that time frame where they were playing club soccer, and so I kind of grew up playing with a bunch of guys that were a lot older than me because there wasn't that many guys on the teams. And so I got the opportunity to progress really fast because I was playing with guys much older and better than me. And so when I ended up being a freshman in high school, it was the first year they had a soccer team in high school. And so I played varsity soccer as a freshman. I was the only one, and I lettered. I was the only one to letter 4 years playing soccer because I was just used to playing with older guys. Anyways, I thought I'd go to college and maybe play soccer in college because I probably wasn't smart enough to get the academic scholarship. I had 2 older siblings who were already paying for school, and I didn't really want to have to take that, take out some debt for school. So I was just well, I will get a scholarship. And I tried out for a couple teams. I actually tried out for a team in, is it Laterno? Laterno is the university. It's in Longview, I think Longview, Texas. It's an engineering school because it's where my brother ended up going. I was one.
See, I wouldn't know anything about.
Yeah,
It was
Not an engineer on this side of the table, pal.
It was 80% boys to girls in that school. And I was
wow.
like, so I went out and tried out for the school, but I was super unimpressed with that statistic.
Did you give a bad tryout? I would.
You're like,
man,
no
I don't know.
girls.
I don't know.
So the coach was like, hey, you know, we'll take you on the team, but there's no scholarship money until maybe when you're a senior, we might have a little bit. And I was like, nah, not interested. So then I was just walking through high school, going to lunch one day, and I picked up this black and white paper. It was nothing special at all. You couldn't even hardly read the pictures or tell what was on the pictures, but it was like Buzz,
like the last thing on the photocopy machine that came out.
It was totally,
barely,
yeah. It was.
You know what I'm talking about? Remember that?
Yeah, it was in and out. You're like, yeah. So I picked it up. I didn't even really talk to the recruiter there. I just grabbed it on my way to lunch, and I was reading through it, and I was like,
they had a table set up.
They had a table, yep.
Yeah,
and so some people were kind of stopping. And it was just the Navy guy that was the only one there. So like I just grabbed it.
Dressed up?
Yeah, he was in his whites.
Was it one of the dudes you went to high school with?
No, this guy's he was quite a bit older. I mean, he was like an E6 or maybe even a chief at that point. Yeah, I think he was an E6 at that point. So
what the hell he had to do to get to high school?
Yeah. So he's just there for lunch, and
Yeah.
I picked up this deal, and I look at it and I go, well, holy smokes, you know, like I grew up small town Montana. I'm like, I've never had the opportunity to go skydiving or scuba diving or any of these other things. And what I did know is like from being an athlete, I played some other sports too. Baseball, I sucked at, so I quit. And basketball, I played through up until my junior year, and I enjoyed it, but I really liked the team camaraderie part of the soccer team. And so that was kind of where I focused my efforts.
Are you a good runner?
I was a good runner.
Yeah,
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I was not a great swimmer though.
Well,
one or the other, right?
Yeah, it's never both, right?
Yeah, it's never
Hey,
both.
man.
So running, like I had that was my superpower for sure. I mean, I could just run forever. And so I just wanted to be part of a team, and I wanted to be part of something that was like going to push me to be better. And so I knew that much. I didn't know much else, but I knew that. They hadn't come out with any, I'm sorry. I think the Charlie Sheen Navy SEALs movie was out by then.
It was out.
It was out, but I didn't grow up with a TV, so I hadn't really seen that yet.
And there's one documentary.
And one, right. So like there just wasn't a lot of information out there. So that brochure was the first thing I saw. And I basically went in and told the recruiter, I'm like, I'd like to know more about this. And he's like, well, you got to go to, Butte, Montana, and you've got to like go to the MEPS, and you've got to make sure that you can even you're even qualified. And I was like, okay. So I told my parents, and I went with the recruiter, and it's like 5 hours away. So we got to spend the night. All right, spent the night, and they're like, here's your coupon to go get a steak dinner, and I'm like, hey man, I'm freedom again, right? I'm like, all right. So do that. I go through the whole MEPS deal. And at the
How old are you now?
46.
No.
I'm sorry. Right now?
No, I'm sorry. How old are you?
No, I was like,
I was in the story, dude.
I guess I was probably like 17 and going on 18. Yeah, right.
Just checking. So you went straight in.
Yeah. I went. So I go to MEPS, and I go through it's like this assembly line process, right? And at the end of it, like I'd never said I'm like taking this oath, but like at the very end of it, they like run you through and they put your right hand in the air and take this oath. And I was like, I don't know if I just joined the Navy.
You're like, I need to
That's how they got. I've seen that happen, man. I've even heard of that too.
So on the long drive home, I tell the recruiter guy, I go, hey man, so you guys had me like take this oath. Like, does that mean like, what if I don't want to join now? And he was like, what do you mean? We buy you a steak dinner, So I go, hold on, that's all right.
Yeah, steak dinner. That's what got me, man.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I get
4
home.
years.
I tell my mom. I'm like, she's like, well, how'd it go? I go, well, I joined the Navy. She goes, no, you didn't. Like literally for the next
They gave me a
6 months,
steak.
she didn't believe me. She didn't believe me, and so technically it wasn't like the formal.
There's one more.
But it was
I didn't know about that either. I didn't know there was another one.
Mm-hmm.
There freaking is.
They tricky, man.
Bro, I was even on that's brilliant. I was like, hey man, just sign this. Oh, I thought I had to sign that just to get in the damn building. No. And then every room.
Yeah.
Good Lord. So that was your MEPS experience? Because mine was crazy.
Yeah.
If I
They didn't want Marcus to join.
Yeah, no. And then the power went out in the building. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what, up to well into the night. If I'd had it, I wouldn't have gone back. Like if they were like, hey man, you got to come back next week out, you wouldn't have been talking. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't have been a SEAL.
Didn't they keep sending you to like the wrong place?
Oh man,
Dude,
you
kept going in.
It's like, hey, you really want to do this kind of thing? Yeah. That's why God messes with me. He's like, hey, but fortunately, now here we are, bro.
Here we are.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So, was your mom excited about it, or
no? Both my parents were very reserved, and they both knew that, like, I was at that point where I was ready to be out of the house.
That's way out of the house.
Yeah, way out. And so they respected that, and as long as I was under their roof, it was their rules. But they both were very reserved. I think my mom was more worried probably, and my dad actually said something which you can appreciate now. But like he said, my biggest concern is that, like, you're chasing this adrenaline rush and what happens, when you can't get enough, right? Or like when it runs out, then what, and like, it made sense, but I didn't really put a whole lot of stock in it at the time. But like now you can appreciate it, right? Because you're like, okay, well, but anyways.
You can't know what that means.
Not at that.
Dude, that's wisdom that gets dropped on you. That's when you show up later like, hey, I get it now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what was that? Was that like an I told you so moment or something? Yeah. I feel like, but I never ran out though. We always managed to get into something. Like, we've been pretty fortunate with that.
Yeah.
Seems like, but I know exactly.
Becoming a member at Navy Federal Credit Union can help you earn more and save more. Their certificate options earn you more than standard savings accounts with competitive rates. Navy Federal stands out to me because they offer the best choices for savings out there, and it's way more than any other financial institutions. For example, you can start saving with them for as little as $50 for an Easy Start certificate, and then you can add money at any time and then watch your savings grow, just like I have. Thanks to their flexible terms, you can use Navy Federal savings options for any of your goals, short or long term. Whether you're saving for clothes, buying a new car, or even going on vacation, Navy Federal will always be there for you. And applying is so easy, you can do it from their mobile app, online, or by phone. And it is so fast, you can get a decision in seconds. Navy Federal is insured by the NCUA. They are open to the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their families. Credit and collateral are subject to approval. Rates are subject to change and are based off creditworthiness. Message and data rates may apply. Please visit NavyFederal.org for any and more information and to apply.
So did you know that you wanted to be a SEAL specifically, or were you
I did. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything else that was in the Navy. And the funny thing too is that recruiter, when I said, no, I want to do this thing on paper, you gave me like the buds, whatever this is.
Yeah, beaches, umbrella drinks, skydiving,
and the thing with the
party.
Skydiving, scuba diving. I told you the thing I want to do. And he's like, no. He goes, I've worked with those guys before.
Oh, here we
You're
go.
not going to make it. Like, you don't even know me, man. And he goes, no, like, it's because nobody makes it. It's like, he's like 90% of those guys that go to training, they don't make it. So like, plus, back then it was like, you had to pick a different rate anyways. So like, he's like, just don't even worry about that. Like, just go pick a rate and then you can try to go to the training, but like, you got to have your backup plan, like, pretty set. And I was like, whatever.
How about that? Plan, they even made us go get trained up with the expectation of us not making it.
Yeah.
Normally you do that one after.
Right.
They make us do it ahead of that.
So,
which is so unnerving.
That was the whole process. Is like, I had to join the Navy, and then I had to go to boot camp, and then halfway through boot camp, I had to, if I was lucky enough, to go take the test to like, and then they give you the freaking flu shot, so of course you got the flu.
Yeah, right.
And then and you get a temperature 100 and some degrees, and you go take the test, and then out of like 80
in a blizzard.
Yeah.
Dude, I went to the great. So when I thought, like, I started looking at the Navy, I'm like, oh, cool. They got a place in Florida. They got a place in San Diego to go to the training. And it was like, yeah, we just closed those. By the way, you're going to Great Lakes.
But that's exactly what they said.
And you're going in November, actually, because I had the whole
Thanksgiving.
summer.
Let's do that one.
So I was there. I went in November 11th. I think it was November 11th.
Morgan
or
went
10th.
in.
Yeah. So I was there all winter because I went through that. Then I had to go to A school, which was I ended up
What was
being a
your-
hall maintenance technician.
What's it called?
Uh,
What were you?
a hall maintenance technician,
Oh,
What
was
is that?
which I thought would be cool because it was like,
Why would you think? How's that? Nothing about that sounds cool.
I was like, it's like shop class. That's
What is
why.
it?
It's like shop class. It's like
Shh.
you
Class.
learn how to
People
do
sending
like
me?
metalworking.
Dude, you know
and
people listen to this,
woodworking.
man. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh wait, a whole
Not
mate-
hall.
A whole,
I'm not
whole- well, come to find out, they're also like they're not technically a plumber,
H-U-L-L.
but they work on the
I know what they are
SHIT
now.
systems, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to diss them. That's a
I
real
thought
job.
you
But I
said
mean,
hall mate.
But now you
Okay,
can come in
hall
straight away.
monitor.
You
Like
be
a
like a
hall
SO,
monitor.
Hall monitor.
special operator, you know.
hall maintenance. We got
Back in the day.
broom. That sounds made up, dude.
hilarious.
All right, yeah, that's
Somebody's
hilarious.
gotta
How long?
pay the
Hey,
tips.
how long is that?
It was like 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be long,
Yeah.
right? That's a serious job down there.
No, weld. Well,
Weld, yeah.
No, I didn't really learn. I practiced welding for a couple weeks, and then I had to take a test. And that was the stupid part. Like when you're a SEAL, like it's so cool that they finally switched to being an SO.
They
like,
switched it.
because now you take a test on something you actually care about
Yeah.
and it means something in your job and you want to be known for being good at. Back then it was like, do you want to, if you're going to weld this kind of metal with this kind of metal, do you want to use a temperature of 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,200 and whatever degrees or 1,300? I'm like, C.
Yeah, right. Valid question, but not for this dude,
Yeah.
right?
I'm not
I
gonna
get
waste
that.
time
Man.
studying that one.
Yeah. It was to see if you had the aptitude for it as well.
Yeah.
But you here, that's how I didn't even know anything about the rates. See, there was rank,
Yeah.
rate.
Yeah.
I didn't speak
So
military. I didn't know anything about that.
You were a medic. So like when you came in, were they like, here, go to the corpsman school, or did you have to go?
I had to go straight to
Buds
Buds.
and then decided, right?
So how about that for hookup? I
Yeah.
thought it was the quickest way to get to this field. My recruiter.
Technically it was.
Technically it was. He didn't lie to me.
Yeah.
He did not lie to me, and I hold it over his head. I still buddies with him. But oh my God. Because
Yeah.
when I was in there, I didn't have a rate, so they could send me anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's when you really find out about some jobs in the military. Like, Luttrell, man, if you screw this up, we got a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even have a name for it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make. And then I had to go to 18 Delta, which is the longest route.
Oh yeah.
Come to
Yeah.
find out, I was on the longest
he
path.
wasn't
yeah.
Corpsman. It was 18.
People
Delta.
mess that up all the time. I just go
Yeah.
with it now.
Yeah.
People are like, hey, Corpsman.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what's
Oh,
up?
yeah.
bro?
No,
yeah,
but
you
he
were the long
actually
course.
went to
Yeah,
18
yeah.
Delta over in Fort Benning.
Yeah, Benning. Yeah. No,
It's,
Bragg. Excuse me. Is that
Bragg.
Bragg? Yeah.
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Yeah, Vietnam. I'm a bastard. I'm a Green Beret bastard.
Like,
I'm
all my
proud of
buddies,
it.
like
Yeah.
from Bud's class, like they go to like you don't see them for like, what is it, 6 months or something like
6 months to a year.
Right. So it's
Because
like,
then they have to do. A
you've already gone through all your
residency at a
training. Like these
hospital.
guys are just coming back.
And then they
to
pull
like,
us
where
out.
you been?
Yeah, they pull us out you got to go every year for 2 weeks, which is
Yeah.
cool, if you enjoy it, which I did.
Yeah.
The course
But
sucked.
you
and
didn't get your
everything sucked.
Trident for a long
Right.
freaking time. Like,
Bro, they forgot about me.
Other
They
guys-
there was a warrant officer going to give it to me. He's like, here, just take it. And I'm like, no, I won my ceremony.
Yes.
That was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Even my Buds class, all the guys I graduated Buds with had been on deployment and come back.
Yeah.
And I remember the guys in my class got together and got me the gold Trident with the ruby, and they were like, hey, here, you've earned this. And I still didn't touch it. It's bad luck. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
So that's a real thing for us. And I would not touch that damn thing until they pinned it through my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will. Then you know how it is. You still stare at it. I still do, man. Every time I see that sucker.
You know what
I'm
I
like,
did? This is yes. So like I had a little Ford Ranger was the truck I had back then, and so like I had one, I put it right in like my kind of on the floor in front of the center console. And like I just sit there and look at it when I was driving.
Still one of my
And
trucks.
I was like, right?
he keeps it on his visor, like
Yeah.
the.
And I'm not talking about the
visor.
drawings. I'm talking
It's
about
not for
down the
anybody
real when it
else.
shows
It's not
up.
for anybody else. Just for me to look at
dude.
it and go like remind you of
Yeah,
like this
reminder.
is why I'm here. This is what I got.
Yeah.
Some of my
Yeah.
purpose, right?
Constant reminder. And it's a good one
Mhm.
because it reminds you of the hell we had to go just to get that
Yeah.
sucker.
Yeah.
That carries some weight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things down here. You look at it and man, you see somebody sporting that thing.
Yeah. Special.
Forget about it. When'd you go in?
When?
Yeah, what-
96.
So it was November of '96. Yep. Yeah.
You were Buds in November too?
Yeah, that's.
So I showed up at Buds in probably like May, and I think my class up in like June. But then I was there for
yeah.
I got rolled for pool comp, And
Ooh,
so,
what? Really?
oh yeah.
It sucks so bad.
It sucked so bad, and I really felt like it was
That's the worst, man.
not even my fault. I mean, to be honest with you, so you get 4 chances, right? And the first time was totally my fault. Like I yanked off like the exhalation hose or one of the hoses, so there was just air blowing up from the manifold.
For anybody who scuba dives or anybody who doesn't scuba
Yeah.
dive, tell about ripping the freaking hoses off his tank.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I didn't, I just was pulling on stuff and I think it was already loose, right? So it came off and there's these bubbles blowing up. And so I didn't really know how to handle it properly, but I thought I handled it really well because I just got my face over it and I'm like, bubbles coming in my mouth. I'm actually breathing, I'm like getting this air in. But I was down there for a while, not really figuring it out, I guess, from that point on. And so they came down and said, come on up, They're like, you failed. I'm like, what do you mean I failed? Like, I thought I was doing pretty good. Then the second time there was something else. And the third time the guy was like, you did really good. Just this one little thing. And then the fourth time it was like, he was like super calm, cool, collected. And he looked at me and he was like, great job. And he goes, wait a minute, is that like a half twist in your strap? And I was like, you know how like it goes from here to here?
Yeah.
I'm like, of course it has to have a half, like it's going to twist from this angle to this angle. Like I still don't know like what he was actually talking about. I'm like, I feel like that was one of those things where he was like, just do it one more time because they want you to like, have the pressure of failing a few times. And I don't think that he knew it was like my last chance. To this day, I really don't, but it didn't matter. You can't argue with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was super frustrated, super upset at myself. And so when I went to exit the pool, I had my fins and my mask in one hand and I got up the ladder and I just kind of tossed them on the pool deck. And the instructor that was sitting up in the tower chair was watching that. He was like, attitude problem. So now I've been rolled to the next class and I've also been associated with having an attitude problem.
Oh,
So you can imagine what kind of love and treatment I got from that point on.
Full
Oh,
benefits.
no.
Full benefit. I mean, I got beat for a handful of days. Plus, it's actually kind of a funny story because another one of my buddies who had failed dive physics, Brody Renner, Brody was in there, and so he'd already got rolled into the next class. So he and I like became roommates for that whole time in between before we classed back up. And he hadn't made it to second phase to do pool comp yet. Or no, I guess he was in the first week when they were doing like dive physics. And so like, so we're both rolled, we're roommates, and they had these balsa wood tanks. Do you remember those like training tanks?
Oh yeah.
And so, like you would take those, you practice, do whatever. Well, when I got rolled out of that class, the class leader said, you should, feel free to take these and practice with them. And, so that's what I did. To my bad, I had them in my room, and I don't know why to this day that they were in my room, but I would show guys like, here's, what we're practicing on. And for those 2 months in between class and back up, that's all I was focused on, was like making sure that when I was back in the water, this is going to be my, perfection. Well, as soon as we classed back up and we went in for our first room inspection, and they come ripping through closets and they're like, we've been looking for these, you thief. Right?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, attitude problem, and now I'm a thief. And it was like, they were just like, we are going to make sure you go away.
Yeah, they don't have to have an excuse to be there.
And the whole time between those two phases, like I had made a mental, like I'm going to be you think I have attitude problem? I'm going to take that challenge, right? I'm going to come in and volunteer for everything. So I was like the water boy that would come into like the second phase room with all the instructors in there, like on their lunch break when they're watching like ridiculous TV shows, and just goofing around looking for somebody to pick on. I'd come in there with the Culligan water bottle and be like, hello, happy smile,
Yeah.
I
don't have an attitude problem.
no attitude problems here,
Now you're too happy.
I was too happy. And then all of a sudden,
It doesn't
boom,
matter
like,
in that school. You don't know that.
and then it was like, you're a thief. And I got set. And that class I rolled into was a really big class. And they had 13 officers. It was a huge class. And they beat me with all the 13 officers for like all day. And then the senior chief called me into his office and he said, I'm going to make sure I get rid of you. you know, and I was just like, oh man, this sucks. So actually when I went into, and the guy that found the tanks in my closet, he made it very clear he also thought I should go away. And I was like, I am a good kid, you know, and like I had been like, this is kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. So when I get back in the water to do the, anybody who failed previously, there was 3 of us that rolled back into this class. So we had to go first, right? So I don't know if we had to go first, but we were lined up to go first. So there's a whole big class. I mean, this class that I rolled into had like, they came out of Hell Week with like 60 guys or something. It was massive. And it was obviously a summer Hell Week. And
Right.
so anyways, they got a bunch of guys. And so I went first. And there's 4 or 5 lanes, right? And you get in the water. And so the guy in the first lane, they're sitting there getting ready to go. He goes, all right, who's first? And it was the instructor that I knew hated me the most. And I was like, I am. So I was just like, this is going to be, holy smokes. I get in the water. And normally, I mean, you're in there for a few minutes. It's usually like a 5-minute, 6-7 minute kind of deal. They do a couple surf hits on you. You go through a couple different things. You either pass or fail, you know, and I was down there long enough that they had got all the rest of the class to go through at least once. And everybody else they try and fail you at least once usually. And so everybody else had gone through. And I come up, and I don't know how long I was down there, but it was probably at least 30 or 40 minutes at least.
Oh my gosh, on
At
surf
least.
torture?
He just kept hitting me, but I'd spent the last 2 months just being mentally dialed for that. And so it was like there was nothing he could do that really fazed me. I mean, he just kept doing his best, you know, and I knew he was out for me. Like I just felt it, like, but I came up and he was like, great job, you know, like, well done. And then he was like, pass. And the guy up on the chair, you know, was like, it's about time. Finally, somebody, because the whole class had already gone once and failed,
Oh
you know,
my
but as a
gosh.
rollback, you only have 2 chances. And it, you know, so it was like, everything was on. And then the other guy who had an attitude problem the same day that we got rolled, they failed him on that one. And he's done.
Oh my gosh.
Second phase, good for everybody.
That
Yeah.
is hard.
That's where you learn your manners.
Yeah.
Second
Mhm.
phase.
That's
It's
like
true.
humble pie.
Oh,
It's a
Worse,
huge
man.
humble pie, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a total good way of saying it. I mean,
Oh
you just
my
have to,
Just put you in the
grin
water, and then when you get in
say-
the water, you got them waiting on you.
yep.
It's
So
just
that's like the videos of y'all laying right on the shore break.
No, that's surf
That's-
torture.
Oh, that's surf torture.
This
Okay.
is you're
This
underwater.
pool comp where there's like 15 feet in the combat training tank.
Oh,
So you go down and sit on the bottom on your knees, and you've got a scuba tank, and they come down and they give you like a surf hit, like as
I
if you got
see.
rolled in a wave, and all your gear's thrown out in the bottom of the pool,
Yeah.
all strung out. They tie your hoses.
You're
in
down there
knots.
with a mask
You know?
on, and you got your tank, and you got
This
your
is when
regulator in your
y'all's
mouth.
hands are tied or whatever.
No, it's a different one.
Different thing.
Yeah,
Different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then they're swimming above you like sharks. And then they'll take a breath, come down, and I mean beat your ass. Turn you upside
Is
down,
it
bang
that
your head
big
on the pool
tank
deck.
on the compound, that big water tank looking thing?
No, that's the
No.
dive tower.
That's the dive tower.
That's something different
Okay.
too.
That's crazy.
They'll take your
Y'all
freaking
have
regulator
so many
and,
different ways
wrap
of
it around your
torture.
throat, man.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
what that
is it
place
this
is,
torture,
man.
This
Yeah.
torture,
It's like,
this
what do they do
torture?
there? Torture our men.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
All right,
So you made it through.
yeah, you got the buds.
And I don't know if you want to talk about your career at all, but do you want to kind of go into what led you to do the Deliver Fund? Because you got into that, and that's what segued into what you do now.
Because we got back, came home, and then how'd you get
If
into
you
it?
want to talk about any of your career, you can, but we don't want to.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we'd be here all day talking about other stories. So, yeah, I got.
Yeah, we would.
I mean, I
Especially
actually.
men, yeah.
I mean, I did go.
We hang out. So
I know.
we can talk all day long.
I did go to an SDV team, right? I went to SDV team 2, so I was in Virginia, and actually, so Danny Dietz was in my first platoon, and then, I'm sorry, it was my second platoon that Danny was in, and then right after that,
He's a new guy in your platoon.
He's
right?
a new guy in my
Yeah,
platoon.
'cause
And
I
the
was
second one, he was with
thinking,
you. Yep. And so, and then I'd gone down to Panama City Beach to be as an instructor / research and development down there. And so I was
Hey,
down
dude,
there.
now that's a pretty sweet gig, right?
Well, it was and it wasn't, because I actually asked to go to Bahrain so I could, because I had, comms, sniper, free fall. And I was like, I just wanted to augment guys that were coming through.
Oh, you should try to get on the line. I'm talking about like if you're offline
and I was,
and that,
right. If you're offline, I mean, it's like spring break,
That's what- yeah, that's
party
right. Yeah, that's
area. But it was cool. I liked it. And it had its good things for sure. But when you came home from Afghanistan, we came out here, and that was my introduction to Texas, really. But a handful of guys came out, like Pittman was.
I can introduce you to Texas.
Yeah. And so,
and for our listeners, like we were talking about this earlier, I don't know if this was being recorded or not, but Marcus and Morgan really did bring so many non-Texans to Texas.
Right.
Whether it was right after Red Wing when Marcus came home, or even during Red Wing when a lot of the guys came just to sit at the house in Huntsville. But even in between, like after Buds or anytime he went home, he brought these big droves of team guys and introduced them to Texas. Even some of your friends married girls from your town.
I was like, you can't believe where we live, but it's the people. Like I was like, hey, and I just brought them here once. And then after that, the word, they're like, hey, you going to Texas? You going home? And I'm like, yeah, y'all want to go? Let's go, man. And we would.
It's so funny.
And they're all still here. They moved here now.
It's so funny to me that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
awesome.
that's how you got introduced.
That's how we got it. Yeah, that's how I got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got to get him here. Once I get him here, then the rest will.
Yeah, and you meet all the other mutual friends / fraternity brothers, and you end up, and it just.
I mean, you got married. For God's sake, that's what we're talking about, right? I mean,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how. So I ended up going, getting out of the Navy right after that. And the funny thing is, I actually got orders to go to Green Team, and with a couple of other guys that were good friends of mine, and I thought about it, but I was disgruntled enough at that point that I was like, I just wanted to get out. And I was also kind of on that, like I was 29 years old, and I was like, well, if I stay on much longer, then I'm in it for
10 years.
distance.
Yeah, you go, man.
And at 29, I stayed a little bit longer than I was planning on originally. So I was like right at my 10-year mark. And if you went to Green Team, you had to sign on for like an additional 5 years. I just wasn't really willing to make that commitment, being that I was already a little bit kind of just disgruntled with some way things were being managed.
Was that because of Red Wing or other stuff?
No, just in general. I think I think some of the guys, like it was earlier on in things where certain platoons were just getting overworked and certain platoons were getting no work, and it's just kind of a.
How about that? Remember them time? I mean,
Right.
it was like that.
Yeah, and I was on the side of like getting underworked, and we're like, we're here, we're ready to trade out.
Oh,
with our
what
sister
happened is
platoon.
some other
Like, it was
units
super
moving in
frustrating
too around us.
Yeah, and so handful of things. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to chase this. Like, I'm just going to get out and have a career, do my own thing, and not really be at the needs of the Navy, anyways. And so be a little bit more master of my own destiny. And I had this entrepreneurial, mindset, I thought. And so I got out, I moved home, started an excavation business for like 3 years. And I kind of wasn't even really into like the, go over and do the, Blackwater kind of stuff that a lot of guys were doing, making good money at the time. And about 3 years into it, one of my SEAL buddies said, hey, you should check this job out. And so what I had with excavation in Montana, in the wintertime, there's not a lot to do.
That, yeah.
It's not really worth the time. So I was skiing and doing other stuff, and I was just like not really making money during the winter. So I thought that'd be a good, like, I could go do that for the wintertime a little bit and come home in the summer, do excavation, whatever. And so I didn't really know exactly what I was signing up for then either, but I kind of said, I'll go to the training. I just said, well, how much do they pay? And how much do I got to work? And so they're like, pay you by the day and you work a couple months at a time. I was like, cool. So I went to this training, and it ended up being, we'll just say it was the same job that the guys from 13 Hours were doing, right? But all my trips ended up going to Iraq for that. So I did that for like 5.5 years. And I would do a couple of months on, a couple of months off usually. And it was a pretty fun thing. You and I actually had a conversation right before I decided to do that. I don't know if you remember this, but in the old SEAL house, because I showed up one night late and was telling Marcus, like, kind of at this, like, do I go this way or that way? And actually, funny enough, like her brother offered me a job, but I was going to be in Alabama. I'm like, I don't really want to live in Alabama. And it was before we were dating, but it was like I had a couple different options, and I chose the one I chose. So I did that for 5.5 years. And on my last trip over there, I went to Baghdad, and flying out, Ryan Zinke and I were on the same flight. He was going to California, I was going to DC, and he was just getting ready to run his first U.S. congressional campaign. And so I said, look, I'll help you, but I don't really know what that means, but I'll help you however I can, because we're from the same town, same city. And I just felt like, obligated to help the team guy out. So he was like, cool, you're going to be a regional director. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but
hell yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I did. I came back from that and hopped into that political grassroots.
Is there a badge
world.
for that? Because if it is, I only wanted if there's a badge for it. Okay?
I did get a coin. That's about it. So that was a really good experience for me to learn about politics and on that grassroots. I know Morgan just went
That's where we learned,
right? And so,
amen to that.
I remember when you were doing that. We
yeah.
went down.
That's right.
With y'all.
That's
We went
right.
To Houston.
In Houston.
Yeah. And so I just got to kind of experience all that. And then right after that, a guy who I'd worked with, overseas basically said, hey, I'm starting this nonprofit to do counter human trafficking. And I said, sign me up, So I did. I jumped in with that. And for almost, 7.5 years, probably, I was a co-founder of that and around from the beginning. And, their whole mission was to equip, train, advise law enforcement to go after human traffickers, kind of a target-centric methodology to focus on going after the bad guy. And, through that, I definitely learned how important the data is to that fight. We call it open source intelligence, right? Like, even the CIA spent a lot of time going after bad guys through human intelligence and trying to, have somebody track them around. And eventually they got smarter or had the option to use, open source intelligence and follow people around in a little bit easier way, just looking at their, digital footprint, right? And so one of the things that we're doing now is we've started this company, Caim Technology, and we're focused on collecting data, any kind of data on human trafficking or exploitation, and globally. And if we can collect all that data and figure out how to organize it and give it attribution to human trafficking, then we can allow access to that at different levels, from governments, corporations. And I think one of the things that's always been missing is having a tool to put in the hands of a direct consumer. So we actually have a mobile app that is going to tell you if you're interacting with somebody that's in, this database of nefarious characters. And so, that's where,
because there's already a database, right? It's just the American people or the public doesn't have access to it, correct?
I've always wondered if like the NSA or somewhere they have this database, but I don't really know exactly what they would have, because even Microsoft actually came out recently and said, here's our database, but what they provided was all of the convictions that had happened, right? So if you're a human trafficker and you're convicted, here's your
understandable,
right?
Yeah, that's when it's showing, right?
But what didn't exist, to my knowledge, was something that's more preventative. So like, out of all the human traffickers that get convicted, what is that percentage? 10%? I don't know. Not most of them don't get convicted. So
why?
Well, because there's no resources. Law enforcement doesn't have the technology. They don't have the money, and even if they do, they don't have the time, and the prosecutors also don't. And because the problem's gotten so big, and so what I think a lot of people don't realize today is around like human trafficking specifically is we think of it as, we still think of it as like, well, that's just pimps and prostitutes on the street, Right. If you go to like Houston, you go, well, there's this and that, lane or street, and it's happening on that street, and you can see it's out in the open. But technology has allowed that market to move onto your smartphone. So if you're selling anything for business, you want to have it accessible via a smartphone. You can do business right from anywhere, anytime, and you can connect a consumer with or a purchaser with the product. And so that's happened in the human trafficking world too. And so there's websites that have commercial sex advertising where it's maybe done in the guise of a escort ad, but when you look at it, it's quite obvious that it's, like it's pornographic of nature just looking at it. And so it's clearly advertising for sex. And then you can read what they say in the ad, and it's obviously advertising for sex. And so one of the things that we can do is we can collect all of those ads from all of these websites around the world where they're doing commercial sex advertising. And then in different areas and locations, there's different known indicators of what is human trafficking versus maybe just prostitution or something else.
Because those are different.
They can be different in different,
I mean, you would
different
think
areas.
that there are people that
And
want
yes,
to make a living, and then there are people that are doing it against their
so
will.
so prostitution
Mm-hmm.
is one. If you're a minor, you're not legally old enough to make a decision to be a prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
So that's considered human trafficking if you're a minor.
Sure.
Secondly, if it involves force, fraud, or coercion, then it's a trafficking case versus, at least in the United States, right? That's our law. And so that is part of the criteria. So we're looking for indicators that show force, fraud, or coercion. And there's a lot of things from the text of the ad to the emojis that they, I never know if I say that right. Emoji,
Yeah.
whatever, right? And so so we take all of that, and in different areas around the world, there are different indicators because cultures are different, society is different. And so we do the attribution with that through machine learning and AI. And then we have this database that we can make accessible at any level. And so like governments can use it because the governments need to find that out. And then we actually have an app for law enforcement as well. And the app for law enforcement is super cool because it's going to also include, facial recognition components. So if an officer has got a girl on the street, he can immediately see, like I can take a picture and say, does this person pop anywhere in the global database on, human trafficking? Or if a missing child, I use the example too, like last summer in Dallas, there was a 14 or 15-year-old girl who was at the Mavericks game. I don't know if you heard about this, but right. And so she was taken, abducted, and there may be some more at the game. She went to the bathroom. She went to the bathroom. She left her cell phone with her dad, and so she goes to the restroom and is just gone. And they don't find her for like 12 days. And there's a nonprofit out of DC who was basically the cyber hunters, and they were looking for her, and they were looking at these different sex advertisements, and they were trying to see if she'd pop up anywhere. And 12 days later, they found her. She popped up on an ad in Oklahoma. And so I think it was in Oklahoma. And so law enforcement was able to do like a sting operation, and they got her back. But during that amount of time, I mean, you can imagine, like usually they're raped between 6 to 20 times a day. I mean, that's kind of like these trafficking victims are often sold that often in a day. And so for that many days, you can imagine.
Did they kill these guys?
You've asked me that before, and my answer is the same. I can neither confirm nor deny. I mean, they should, right? I mean, in the old days, you'd stone people like this, right?
Yeah.
But so this is.
Oh, we got a special place for that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
And so this is like one of the tools that never existed before. Was like, I mean, imagine, if your daughter's in college and she's on a dating app and she's interacting with somebody, and how she's supposed to know if they're a nefarious character or not.
I get it.
We can allow them to have that, be empowered with that in their own hands to say, this person is associated with commercial sex advertising and these indicators of human trafficking. So now it's your choice whether or not you want to interact with them or not. And then with law enforcement, again, they can have a tool that can help find missing children, victims, and help identify who's involved. So that's.
So do we bring back the public? When we were a kid, we had the public service announcements, and then when you were in
right.
school, then you had the civility, and then like teach kid how to keep their head on a swivel at the young age. Do we do that anymore? They do that in public schools anymore?
I think they just focus on gender.
Yeah.
Right, stuff like that, and nothing
What
to
do you wanna
keep
be
them
today?
safe,
Yeah.
like the actual keep them safe thing.
They focus
Right.
on inclusion and gender studies and
But
right, yeah.
I would also add that, a lot of times too, like they're more focused on like the stranger danger piece, right? And like what to look out for with, people you don't know. But a lot of the trafficking, the majority of the victims, it's through like a relationship that already exists, be it like family member, a friend of the family, or just somebody that they're interacting with whom they actually trust, versus somebody that is unknown to them.
Or it's what the actions, right, as opposed to the person. Because I feel at a young age, you're teaching them different because they learn different in capacity, as opposed to adults do. So it's like, because they can act. I don't think you know what camouflage is as a kid. You know what I'm talking about? Like whatever a human comes out with is probably what they think. And you don't really pick that up till later, or unless something happens to you. I think there's got to be a way we can teach. So like, hey,
Right.
sarcasm. How the hell can you? Because you don't want to teach them that.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that got dropped into, I don't know, planet Earth that we have to freaking deal with, man, I guess.
Yeah.
Our kids already have sarcasm.
Yeah, they get it from us. We were taught, I'm the best at it, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's part of my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Well, so is this app available to everybody? Anybody can download it?
It will be. I mean, we're probably a month or two out from it being launched. We're in the state right now where we're collecting that. I mean, it's a multitude of websites that we're collecting from globally, and so the app is going to the App Store soon, and we have to go through a little beta testing, and then it'll be out. And so anybody can pay, like, it's probably going to be like $5 a month, you know.
So
And a parent can get, like, you can have a family plan, so you can keep your family safe. You know, you can type in a email or phone number or information into it to see if it pops again on any of that database. And then, you know, and Brittany's talked a lot about too, like, there's other data sets that we can include into that as well, probably eventually, but like our flagship launch of it really is focused around human exploitation. So
is it something where in this app, like, you're typing in someone's name as if you're doing a background check, or how's the app working?
it's both. It's the goal is to have it where you can type in something, any piece of information, and see what pops, you know, what matches and comes back. So whether it's any kind of personal identifier, if it's a phone number, email, social handle, or just something that is listed in the text, and the law enforcement side, again, has the facial recognition match as well. But then also our goal is to get to the point where we basically have the technology that looks at what you're seeing, so you can choose which apps you want it to monitor. And as you are on your phone, it's monitoring those apps. You're giving it user consent to look at those other apps. And so eventually, if you are getting an Uber, and you want to know that your driver, or even if you're an Uber driver, you want to know who's getting in your vehicle.
It's like your own personal resume that you already have on them.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a reverse resume.
And then you said background checks, and actually, like, Brittany was volunteering to be a Sunday school teacher, and she had to do background check, you know. But you know what data they don't currently have, and they should have? Does this person got any involvement with human trafficking, you know, or sex advertising? Yeah, they should. And so, like, we can pipe our data into a plethora of different places that all, even on the financial side, there's a know your customer, you know, KYC kind of component. And, you know, this is going to be something that, and we can talk to Morgan about helping get that pushed through, you know, but there's never been a congressperson I've talked to yet who isn't looking for a way to help fight human trafficking.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So this is just something that in the evolution of how you fight human trafficking needs to happen and provide good data to, you know, all those different, you know, places I mentioned.
It's almost as if when we came online and became adults, we got our tech back. It's like before 2000, we were grounded.
All right.
You know what I mean? And Hunter and I were talking about this the other day too. It's like, man, back in before 2000, no one was on the same time, right? Like your watches would be a minute off or something.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm talking
always
about?
had to do
We
that
had to do
time hack. We had to do
hacks,
time
right?
hack everywhere. Now
Now
it's all
with the
satellite.
smartphone,
you know?
everyone's on
Yeah.
the same. That had to do something to
Even
us.
like different
Yeah.
phone carriers
Thank you.
would be a minute
Yeah.
off.
There- yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that had to have changed just somehow.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's so much things that change. And I mentioned this a couple times. I spoke to a group of, there was actually a political group of people, but one of the guys was an older gentleman there who's been in technology his whole life. He used to make like the chips that go into, you know, cell phones and stuff, right? And so he said, so what you're telling me, it's more of a statement than a question, is like, you know, he held up his iPhone and he said, this is nothing more than a brick in the Tower of Babel. And I thought,
poetic.
I
Wow,
thought,
that was deep.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of in the moment. I was like, okay, I'll process that as fast as I can and move to the next question, right? But then the more I thought about it, the technology has gotten to this point where we are so like it's everything to us, right? And to that statement about it being a brick in the Tower of Babel, like what's the story of Tower of Babel? You know, like humans decided that we don't need God because we can build our own tower to heaven, right? We don't need God. And technology has kind of done that in a way too, where it's not kind of like it has done that, where we don't need God because we can create everything we need through AI, through technology, through, you know, and in that story, God said, I'm going to spread you out because never again am I going to allow you guys all speak the same language and hang out, because this is the kind of stuff you come up with. You know, it's a humanistic kind of approach where you're just trying to eliminate God. And he's like, I'll just separate you guys. Well, now we're back to that place again where you can talk with anybody at any time in any language because you have the technology.
That's a portal.
Exactly.
And if you know what to type in that sucker,
Yeah.
you can get anything out of it. That's information.
Right.
Like you boil it down, like we crave that. And the Tower of Babel brick's brilliant if he said it that way.
It was.
Because if you want to confound the languages, how would you do that? You separate us.
Right.
Think about how many different languages there are. Then think of the slang that goes into that. You walk into a neighborhood and throw a wrong color out, boom, you're dead.
You did.
That sucker right there is. It's funny now because when I see the old timers walking around with them on their hip, I'm like, look at that gunslinger right there, man. You know what I'm talking about? Some got them 2-gun rigs going on. Because it is, man. You can pull that off. The right person has that in their hand. They can mess you up.
Right.
But it really is incredible in good and bad ways that with just a phone, Hunter and I went to Uganda and were able to communicate
Think about how powerful
with
that
someone
sucker
in the
is,
middle
man.
of freaking nowhere just through our phone.
Translate that.
Able to show a farmer in Uganda how to preserve tomatoes because they were complaining of not being able to stretch their season out. Taught
It's both
this
good
person,
and bad.
you know,
How about
like
that?
completely.
Both good and bad.
It's like we learned how to. I saw something with AI the other day, and they simulated what it would be to end the world. I'm like, you already put that in their head. Why would you have even typed that in there, man?
Yeah.
I was like, if you teach it to do something, it will. They were saying, I was like, man, you really got to put a lot of effort and time into training this. I'm like, sounds like a kid. Sounds like a child. You got to do the same thing with human beings, because if you don't train us,
Yeah.
think how dangerous that sucker is.
I saw something recently and I thought that it said that this AI had become sentient, I think is the word, which is basically like we are sentient beings. I might be saying that wrong.
That's right. You said it right.
But like basically we become self-aware. And when you become self-aware, you do what's in the best interest of you.
Of yourself.
So if you are an AI / computer / robot / whatever, if you're doing what's in the best interest of you and you decide, well, I mean, this is what Elon Musk has always been like trying to guard against, I guess, to some point. He's like, beware of what you wish for here, because at some point, you know, this is going to take over. And we're at a crazy place right now, because I think maybe you even saw this. They had a fake podcast with Joe Rogan that came out with, I think it was like Sam Harris, Joe Rogan, all done by AI. It was called like episode 1, and you couldn't tell the difference, right? So like you have Chat GPT now where, you know, from OpenAI, and you can just say, I want you to write this, but now it's not just writing. Now you take video.
Oh, they got our voices too.
You take your voices.
voice on there.
You can put any voice and any.
I saw the president open the draft the other day.
Right. Exactly.
And I believe that was like,
So-
kind of scared me. I was like, what? Are
Now-
you kidding me?
What can you actually believe? What can you believe? Like if
Remember,
it's,
we wanted a video back in the day, and now you're like, hey, I need some people's
Yeah.
eyes. Like you got to have two people integrity, because you can make a video of anybody doing anything, especially if
we're
they're
in
a
a
public.
crazy time.
Oh, we're upside
And how
down.
do you prove
Upside-
that
upside
that's
down, yeah.
not, like, if they're making video and audio of someone that's actually not true, how do you prove that that's not them?
There's probably another Team Never Quit podcast out there you don't even know about yet.
Just
And-
like
and AI is
the
asking all the
different
questions.
Team Never Quit apparel
Sure.
stores that
Yeah.
are out there.
I mean, it's wild. Like, even in
Yeah.
like marketing, there's all these advertisements now. Like you have like Jasper, you have other different AI things, and it's like, hey, I want to market to this segment, you know. And like a friend of ours is a real estate agent. He was like, hey, I want to focus on like this segment of people. Like, what should my marketing look like? And it's like, boom, here you go. In 3 seconds, here's your
Sure,
whole
yeah.
marketing plan.
How
you
about
know?
that?
You know, like the whole like.
And if you're having a conversation, like, especially with kids, it's almost like that we got this, and then we were having so much fun with it. We had kids while we were
Mhm.
doing it, and we hadn't put the rules in yet. So now they're playing with it, and you're like,
Mhm.
now we have to figure out how to monitor it, and
It's the Wild West. There's never been
Yeah.
like real good parameters on like governing like how it can be used, and so it's all out there to be used for good or evil.
'cause they can look it
Right.
up. Like you tell your kids something, they'll be like, really?
How can
Yeah.
who
Well,
sets who can do that? Who can put parameters on AI or even just what we can look up, what we can do on social media? Because
Well,
there has to be something.
that's a dangerous place to go too, because if you look at the last couple of years and you look at the censorship,
Sure.
that
Oh
happened,
yeah. How would you even start that?
we're gonna have
Who would
these-
you get to do
We're
it?
gonna have these fact checkers, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, I'm sure that those fact checkers are legit.
Right.
Because any AI has to be written off of somebody's intelligence, somebody else, a human. So
Yeah.
which human did you get to do that?
Yeah. What's their political motive?
How do they think when they get pissed?
Hmm.
I'm not talking about when they're happy.
What's their agenda?
What do they look like when they get upset? Because when people get upset, the happy one goes away, and like behind that, they were this. And if you don't know that,
Look at what they did.
So
Remember,
scary.
wasn't it Twitter that was first like they kicked off the president of the United States off a social media platform?
Yeah.
But they got terrorists on there, you know.
Right.
They
I
kick
never
off.
understood that. I'm like, okay, whatever he says on it, fine. Let's just put that to the side. Why do you still have terrorists on here? Like,
Right.
how is that okay? But you are actually going
Yeah.
to kick off the leader of our country.
so is this
I
gonna?
don't
Can you get
understand.
That's a
where the-
whole
where the
other
app-
conversation.
where the app comes
Yeah.
with the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just download it. You go to the App Store, you download the app. Like the one for law enforcement will be specific to that, and then we've got our mobile app. We're finalizing the name of the app right now. So if you got any good names, let us know. But
Have you put that out to team guys yet? Because we'll come up with some stuff.
I know.
You
right?
need,
That's
like,
actually a
a-
good idea,
Bro,
Yeah.
We'll put it on
you need
the
to put that.
thread.
We just
We'll
did,
put it on the
right?
thread.
Yeah. We'll hit them from every angle. We got like, hey boys, we need
Yeah.
a cool name. Come
Yeah.
on with it.
I know. I had a couple I don't even want to say out here, but yeah. So we're getting close to being able to launch that, and that is yeah. I mean that's going to be it's just going to grow in capability and be able to intersect all the different places that we touch the internet and people that we're interacting with in the digital space, and I think that corporations have a real need for it too, because some like hotels, motels, for example. I mean, they're getting sued because class action lawsuits of human trafficking
sure.
victims saying like, you knew I was being sold for sex
Sure,
on
yeah.
your, and
Mhm.
same thing with social media platforms and short-term rentals and
It'll choke
all this.
itself out eventually, right?
Yeah, and so like this is like everybody really has a need to deal with this and has a need for that good
Yeah.
information.
That's a good way
But
of saying that.
I don't necessarily trust a corporation to have my best interest or my family or my daughter's best interest or even the government to have my best interest. So why not also have the tool that my family or my daughter can have in their own hands
Yeah.
to be able to have that access to that data as well. So
So yeah, so to
Super.
truly have a change with the people, it had to come from the people, not the people as an entity. Like,
I mean, I did
back,
this
right?
for like 7.5 years in this nonprofit, fighting human trafficking world. And it is so difficult to raise money in a nonprofit, right? So, I mean, obviously what we're doing now is a for-profit business. We're going to have a nonprofit, but our nonprofit is going to be just to push money out to those other organizations that are fighting human trafficking or human exploitation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a pass through. And we become the vetting source for who's doing, impactful work. But there's just a whole bunch of things that we're missing in this fight. And that's one of them, is having a real prevention tool that can be in the hands of anybody and allow you to make the decision of who you want to interact with, at least let you know that there's something there. Because sometimes there's a whole grooming process that takes place over time, and if it can give that child or that potential victim that information, but it also their friends can have access and be looking up people and saying, hey, is this person that my friend is interacting with who might be caught up in it and not want to see what's happening to them because they're naive and they think they're getting attention and they think this person must love them. And so friends can help, parents can help monitor that. And so it just gives access to everybody. And at the same time, it's only like going to be a few bucks a month. And so it's like we can push out information and updates and things about human trafficking. So it gives us like a microphone into society to say, you know, this is the problem. Here's how you deal with it. Here's how you think about it. Here's prevention models. Here's all these things. And the other component that we have too is we're standing up a platform that is like a video first platform, but it's for all. And this isn't really something we're capitalizing to make money on, but it's just something to help in the fight. It's having a platform where all the different nonprofits who are in the fight can be on this platform.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it becomes like a digital town square for all of them to promote what it is they do. But eventually, one day, my
digital
goal,
police department.
exactly, my goal would be that one day it becomes robust enough that if a child goes missing anywhere in the world, and you have all these people
You shut it down, yeah.
are already
Sure.
claiming to be the people in this fight,
Yeah.
you know, because law enforcement doesn't always have those resources. But you have all these nonprofits who are raising money and saying, this is what I do in the fight. You turn them all into first, you know, responders
Sure.
and
The web.
engage them. And you're like, oh, you're a super cyber hunter guy? Cool. Boom. Here's the missing person. Go
How
for
about
it.
that?
Victim services, engage, you know, like have everything.
If a
That's
blast
pretty cool.
comes out from there, it's like a drop of web, right?
Exactly.
And as soon as
You know,
and everyone
boom.
gets contacted, and wherever you're
Everybody's
sitting, or
working
pointing- yeah.
immediately. So in that
So how
case
do you
of the
make that
girl,
happen?
oh, we're making it happen.
You are
Oh,
making it
we
happen.
are. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. So for, yeah.
So are all, because there's so many different human trafficking organizations. When
Yeah.
okay, are they talking to each other? Are they supportive of each other? for
They're
the most
mostly in
part?
competition of each other because kind of like, I would say churches, but like, you know, like anybody who's in a nonprofit is like fighting for dollars. It seems like, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't realize that people are going to support what they want to support, and they may support multiple charities all in the same field, right?
Mhm.
But people in the nonprofit space are like fighting for dollars, and they're trying to make their case why they're better than everybody else,
Yeah.
and everybody else sucks. So what I love about what we're doing now is we become essentially like agnostic in that, and we say we're here to support all of you guys. And our nonprofit, our whole thing from the nonprofit side is just to give money to, you know, those other charities that are doing good work. Our for-profit business is there to make money, but provide tools and prevention and have a huge hammer in the fight against human trafficking. But as we push resources to those who are doing the work, what we want to do is we want to have that platform where they can all engage, and it'll be like think of it kind of like a YouTube platform in a way where they can have their own channel in there. But it's going to be more than that. It's like kind of if you and it's all on Web3, but it's if you had Instagram and YouTube and maybe a couple other things kind of all combined together, that's what this platform does. And it also allows all of those nonprofits to, you know, interact and communicate in a way, but it also allows anybody else who wants to be involved in fighting human trafficking in their area to say, how do I get involved? Where do I get involved? Who's doing what? You go on there, you
Sure.
can see who's doing what. They're advertising, and we're promoting all of them.
It teaches them what to look for too,
Yeah,
like scenario based
For sure.
traps, how
Yeah.
they're played out.
and we'll have like everything from like, you know, this is a research center. Like here's the white papers to here's the people that are like undercover
Yeah.
doing sting operations or whatever,
Yeah.
right? It's everything in between, and then just empowering them to all work together.
Yeah.
So there's really good examples where that can happen, and actually Houston is a great example because the government has come together to form a task force that involves like 5 counties, and it has everything from the U.S. Attorney's Office down to Crime
Oh, the
Stoppers.
line.
You know,
That's good.
Yeah.
There's a straight line from the
Right.
top. So one thing gets handed off to the other. That's how it gets.
Before they ever
fluid.
make that arrest, they've
Yeah,
already
yeah.
talked to the attorneys.
It's already
and said,
there. It's already
Here's what
there.
I've got, and they said, well, this is what I need this to before you can go do this.
Sure.
So they tie it all together. They do a phenomenal job. It's a phenomenal model. But that's a combination of government and some nonprofits together.
When you see that happen, when they
Yeah.
all work, when you get everyone on the same page and they flow like what happens overnight?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
quick.
Yep. So we want to empower that just to the next level, and then get these nonprofits to appreciate the space that they're in, appreciate the thing that they do, that they bring to the table, and then just promote them in that. You know, not everybody needs to do the same thing, or not everybody needs to do the same thing as everybody else, or be,
Right.
you know, people want to do you get a little bit more money. If we just had a little more money, we could do everything, no, just focus on the thing that you're good at. Right. And then we can really help them
I feel like
get
so
attention
many
for
of them
that.
do have their own niche. And so it would
Correct.
be good if they worked together
Yep.
because they're not all doing the exact same thing. So if they did,
That's what it is all about.
work together, then there would be such a bigger impact instead of
Maybe
thinking
we'll
of each
do a
other as
version 2 for
competition.
veteran
Yeah, I
organizations.
was gonna say
right?
there's some way where we could just kind of bend those around.
Yeah.
If one person can have access
Yeah.
to all of them.
Yeah.
It's like that would.
Yeah,
if we all
that's your
came together
next
for one
challenge,
for
to
That-
create an app to network all the
that.
veteran
Brings
organizations.
every one of the
Yeah.
organizations together where they get
Yeah.
We've always wanted to do this ever since we first got married. Like Marcus started Lone Survivor Foundation just a few months before we met, and then it was like this huge flood of nonprofits started after that. I mean,
Right.
in 2010, a ton of them started that year, the year we got married, and I think it was because there were a lot of deaths going on
Yeah,
in the
that's
war,
true.
and there was just a lot of things going on, and the war was so hot and heavy at the time. Is that our dog making that noise? And Marcus said, well, if I would have known that all of these different organizations were going to pop up,
Partner
I would
up,
have
right?
never,
Partnered up, yeah.
I would have never started this.
Never started. Yeah.
And we always talked about how we wish we could somehow be a network to
Mhm.
people. And
But you have to earn that.
and
So
on the
that's what we-
side, we have,
Mhm.
privately, if people come to us can ask, like, hey, I have a friend that needs this, this, and this, I'll do a little bit of homework and send it to them. But it would be so cool to have one central space
Yeah.
that was like, okay, you're a widow and you need help paying your
Yeah.
mortgage, go to this place. If you
Mhm.
are
After all these
a
years.
Purple Heart and you have a prosthetic and your VA is not paying for it, you need this, go to this place. Like there's so many different things.
It's there.
Yeah.
And there's
I've
something
been,
for
right now we're like
everybody.
a Rolodex.
Right.
We need to put it on the internet.
We
kind
do.
of deal.
Yeah. No, that's a really good idea. And I don't think it'd be all that difficult.
Can't be that
I
difficult.
mean, because
Just have people check in. Say, hey, this is where we check in and do this,
For
yeah.
this, we're tying
Mhm.
all these nonprofits together that all do different things, and we're gonna tie them together in a way as when it's like time to engage. It's like here's your, and you can kind of see who's actually doing real impactful work when it's like here's a mission.
You hear about it.
Who's able to actually
Yeah,
execute.
you hear about it.
Right. And same thing with the veteran side. I mean, when I was working with Ryan, we were running around Montana. It was like same deal. I started meeting all these guys who were starting an organization, and they all wanted the same thing. They're like, I just need to find this billionaire guy
Mhm.
and have him buy me this property because it's got a really cool lake on it, and I'll just help guys that or need PTSD, this or that, whatever. And it's like, yeah, well, I'd love it if some billionaire guy bought me a cool 200
happened to me.
acres, 200
Same.
acres.
Yeah, we never got that.
but it doesn't. And-
We had to work and buy it,
You know.
and then
and the other side was like, like how much time is spent on the just administrative side of it. And then these guys who had a real vision to do something impactful, their whole time is spent doing administrative stuff
Yeah.
and not actually doing the mission. So if you could have an umbrella of like, here's the administrative side. Now we have like multiple people that are just going and doing their mission, and even make it a collective, it would be
didn't
so much
exist.
more.
it didn't exist for us. That's why the
Yeah.
nom guys had it so
And
tough.
then you have egos, right? So that's,
Well, there's a bunch of them.
and
Yeah.
hence,
You're strapped up with it when you come out,
yeah.
for sure.
Well, I love what you're doing with this.
Yeah, so
This
if we
is
need to bring
really-
attention, how do people find you, follow you, and
and really just follow the app, like when it's going to
Yeah.
come out and all of that. I know you have an Instagram that's giving
We
information.
Brittany can mention that.
Yeah, we so we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Been on since just February, so not a lot of content on there. But the website is Caim.tech, and that's CAIM.tech. And then it's Caim Technology or Caim Tech on all of those platforms.
Okay.
Caim is a Gaelic word, like she said, C-A-I.
you know how many people speak Gaelic?
A lot, turns out.
Really?
We're like two.
A lot of it. Yeah.
What?
Well, so
Well, I guess I have to brush up on it.
turns
then.
out-
I've been out of the loop a little bit. I
yeah.
want to get on that.
Yeah,
We need
get
to-
on that
I didn't know
brush
this
up on our
either,
Gaelic.
but so Caim is actually a Gaelic word that means sanctuary or protection. And so
say that.
that's kind of a
Yeah.
cool little deal. And
Remember Tower of Babel?
yeah,
Confounded the languages.
that's right.
Caim Technology.
Got technology.
And so anybody.
Caim.tech is the website, and we're making it more robust by the day, and people can follow us on the social media platforms she mentioned. And then
They can also go on right now, I believe, on the website, the homepage. They can actually pre-register, just sign up through email to get updates regarding the app. So as soon as the app is launched, just once it's available on the major stores, then
We'll
they'll
get
get a
an update.
notification.
And
so that they can go
at
and
the
download
longest, it might be 4 months or so before that's available.
we're hoping it's less than 2 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's so incredible. I mean, I'll use it. I'm always scared when I get into an Uber. I keep my window down. I'm like, oh, I need fresh air. I always have these like,
Yes, I
okay,
need to
am I
scream for
going to
help.
need to
Yeah.
escape or scream for help? Or I have Marcus or one of my sisters on the phone the whole
God's gonna
time.
kidnap me. I think it's great. Can't believe it.
Are you following
This
me on my
definitely
Life
looks like a
360?
weirdo. That's why I was get a teen guy back there. Like, man, I think this guy wants me to kidnap him.
Yeah, I'm so happy that y'all are doing this, and I think it will be revolutionary with just the safety of our kids, or everybody. I mean, even
You'd think we'd put the most effort into that.
Yeah, right.
And so I got
Kids.
back and
Right.
we started doing this, and when you have them online and they grew and they're around, like, hey man, the most important thing we got is them.
Yeah.
Like, you want to change something, we got to protect them.
Yeah.
And teach them.
Yeah.
Our
It's
little
wild.
ones are 10 and 11 now, and so they're at that age. It's like, can we go to a friend's house, or can we go, whatever? And I'm like, oh no, who's the people?
So I was
What's their
just lay
mom
out their
and
little
dad's name
pipeline
and
for
email?
him, like with Axe.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying out loud, man. I was like, okay, so I got a kid. He's, he speaks Spanish. He freaking loves basketball. He goes jiu-jitsu and he's a Boy Scout. He's starting to scout. So I was like, that's a good, solid resume right there. You give him that little base. That's what my brother and I had.
Mm-hmm.
Just 2 of those.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you teach them when they're young. I mean, yeah, they'll go out and act while, soil those oats for sure. But if it's in there, it's in there. Teach them what to
Although
look
Addie
for.
wants to do
Yeah, you gotta give 'em
everything
a-
Axe does because she wants to beat him at it. So she's gonna have her girly
My
stuff
daughter's the most
plus
dangerous one I got,
everything
man.
Axe
Right.
does.
Teach her everything.
She's
I taught her how
very
to kill when she was
competitive.
7.
Our daughter's 2, and holy smoke, she's tough.
Yeah.
She's
Like,
tough.
she is
She
tough.
this little angelic child, sweet as can be, always full of joy, but she's tough.
She's
Yeah.
super
Look at her
tough.
uncles. I mean, she's got
Yeah.
freaking Navy SEALs protecting her, man. That's a different story altogether. Not including all the Green Berets and Rangers and everybody in the
right.
Marines we hook
In
up
town,
with.
yeah.
Our son starts jujitsu next week when we
Oh,
get home.
fun.
So yeah, starting him.
Yeah.
early.
All you got to do is take them and drop them off.
4 years old, man.
Just sit them in
Starting
there.
freaking
It's
jiu-jitsu.
really no much effort
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought it'd be like a pain in my ass, but really all I
Yeah.
got to do is go in. And my brother's in there. So, and some of my boys. So it's just like we get to hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morgan's kids are in it too, so
The
the
adults.
the
I was like, wait a
dads
minute.
go
My kids
and
are actually
take
something
the
I get to hang
kids.
out with my partner. That's
That's
okay.
awesome.
Yeah, man. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my
Added
gosh.
benefit.
It is,
Yeah.
right? Well, man,
Well,
thank you,
y'all
brother.
for coming out here. I
Thanks
know
for
you had
having
to
us.
come from Montana, but thank you so much, and we can't wait to see what this does for everybody.
Trying to make the world a better place, and
Yeah.
You are making it a better place. This isn't a tangible way to do it, so
Amen,
we will
brother.
definitely have the app on our phones for
Well,
sure.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
you
you.
guys for coming out.
Today.
And thank you everybody for listening in. We'll see you next week on Team Never Quit Podcast.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.